Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by CacheFly. CacheFly.com. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. I'm talking computers, the internet, smartphones, home theater, everything in the world with a chip in it. That's what we talk about here on the show each and every week. I'm glad you're here today. Glad you're here too, Heather Hammond, the phone ranger. Do you see what I got here? See that?
Oh, yeah. What is that?
You see, I've been wearing this. This is called a skip.
Is it an earring?
Actually, I think I still have it on my ear. Wait a minute.
Oh, wait.
Didn't I put it on earlier? Where did it go? Must have fallen
It's not
off.
on your shirt any longer.
It's a little magnetic. It's a little bit of pleather that folds in half, like a clip with a magnet in it, so it snaps together. But I think it's kind of interesting. It's designed. This is from Motorola. They call it the Motorola Skip, and the idea of this is it's designed to unlock your phone. So, I think a lot of people don't. In fact, Apple said, I think, with their fingerprint reader, when they released that on the iPhone 5S, they said half of iPhone users never lock their phone. Do you lock your phone?
Yes.
You should, right? Because if you lose the phone and it's locked, at least they can't get your stuff. And, so I highly recommend people do that. In fact, I don't know about iPhones, but on Android phones, there's several ways to lock it. There's face recognition. There's a pattern that you can do. There's a pass key, and then there's a longer passphrase. And, of course, the more secure you make it, the better, but also the less convenient it is to unlock it, right? So for a long time, I just used the pattern, and they said that's not very secure. In fact, my friend John C. Dvorak, every time he gets my phone, he will look for the grease prints of my fingers unlocking the phone. He says, I can unlock this. Let me see here. Let's just, you moved your finger. It never works, but it's a good point that a pattern is probably an easy thing to crack. So what Android does is says, look, if you want to encrypt the contents of this phone, scramble it, you'll need to use more than a pattern. You'll need to use at least a PIN number of, I think, 4 or more, maybe 5 or more characters. But the more characters, the more secure, but the more of a pain in the butt it is, right? But I wanted to do that. I've never done it before. I always use the pattern because it's too much trouble to 555555555. That's too much trouble. Well, that's where this skip comes in. That's very cool. So on this, my current phone, the Moto X, I did turn on the long passphrase. I did turn on encryption because with this skip, of course, when I was walking around, I can enter the number. But with the skip, I can just swipe the phone against that little magnet, and it opens the phone and unlocks it without a password. Just like that. Actually, that one's not hooked up yet. You have to register the skip before you can use it. So I have one on my... They come with stickers, too. So I have a sticker on my desk. I just put the phone on there and it unlocks it. Now, that is a little bit less secure because, of course, if somebody finds my phone and they know where I have little dots or they can take the little clip off of me, that's less secure. But I think that that's a nice compromise. But the reason I bring it up is because we're starting to see more and more devices that are more and more aware of the outside world. And this is, to me, a very important development in how these phones work. This Motorola X, which is made by Google, Motorola is a Google company now, also knows, for instance, if you're paired with Wi-Fi, if you trust that Wi-Fi, and it'll stay unlocked when it's paired with that Bluetooth, I should say. So that's why in the car it's not locked, because it says, oh, you're in the car. That's a trusted Bluetooth. That means I shouldn't be locking. That's nice. It also knows when you're driving, because it can sense how fast you're going, right?
Oh, wow.
Right? And so it has a driving mode. When you're driving, a lot of phones do this now. It goes into driving mode. In this case, and I think this is so good, they have a Motorola Assist, and what it does is it says, look, if you want, when you're driving and somebody calls, I will send them a text message saying, I can't answer, I'm driving.
That's cool.
Is that a good idea? So what happens now when I'm driving, the phone rings and it says, Heather's calling, would you like to answer? And if I say answer, it'll pick up. If I say no, it says, would you like me to send her a text message? I say yes. It sends you that canned text message saying Leo's driving. Unfortunately, it also says, brought to you by Motorola Assist, a Google company. I mean, I wish they wouldn't put the ad in there, but you can't edit that. But I think that's neat. And that's because the phone knows that you're moving along.
Now, if you lost the little magnetic device.
No, I just unlock it with my password because I still have a passphrase.
You still have that.
Well, and so this brings us to Apple's iPhone 5S, which not only has a fingerprint reader in it, which is kind of like the Skip. You can have a secure phone, but because if it's accurate, and I presume it is, people have been reporting that it works quite well. If the fingerprint reader is accurate, then that means I can lock my phone and only I can open it, but it's still easy. Nice combination, right? Still convenient, but secure. That phone also has a special chipset built in it, actually somewhat like the Moto X. Apple calls it the M7. That is a low-power chipset. When the rest of the phone is sleeping, it can watch your steps. It can watch your movement. They're going to use it for health monitoring, like a pedometer, that kind of thing. I think that's a very... These phones are getting more and more aware. Apple started it by putting an accelerometer and a gyroscope in their iPhone early on, and now all of these phones have more and more sensors. My Galaxy S4, I don't know why it has this. Besides having an accelerometer so it can see it's moving and a GPS so it knows where it is, it has a gyroscope so it knows where it's pointing. It has a pressure sensor so it knows what altitude I'm at or what the pressure is. It has a humidity sensor. Now, why does my phone need to know what the humidity is? I'm sorry, Leo. You can't keep me in your armpit anymore. What do they? I mean, I don't.
Because it's going to say, "Hey, Leo, you might want to grab an umbrella."
No. Although.
Right. How close are we to just embedding these phones in the side of our head or our neck?
That's what I'm waiting for. Seriously. We call it jacking in. It's with the idea that the phone connects directly to your gray matter. I can't wait.
I've heard of a different kind of jacking, but...
No, not hijacking, skyjacking. It's jacking into your brain. You know, like a jack, like a phone jack that you plug in. But instead of the phone, you're plugging your computer into your brain.
But then they can still steal it. If it's in your body, someone can't walk off with it.
Well, that's another thing that comes up. Now, Apple, of course, put this fingerprint sensor in before all of this falderall about the federal government spying on us and everything. And I probably didn't anticipate the sensitivity people have to this. One of the questions people ask about the iPhone fingerprint reader is, well, what happens to those fingerprints? And Apple took great pains when they announced it to say, no, we do not store a picture of your fingerprint. We do not upload it to our servers. We do not give it to federal government. What we do is we hash it. We process it in such a way that it can't be used to recognize your fingerprint by somebody else, but it can, because the hash function is known to the phone, when you put your fingerprint on it, it will do this same numeric modification to it, and if it matches the one that's stored, then we'll know it's you. So they're doing, I think, the right thing, preventing this fingerprint from escaping out into the outside world. But still, nevertheless, people are very nervous because nobody trusts any of the companies anymore. They figure, the NSA's probably got to them anyway. So I think people are concerned that Apple's saving your fingerprints. I would say no, you don't have to worry about that. I would also point out that I don't know if it's true in all states, but here in California, have you gotten a driver's license lately? They fingerprint you. So in order to get a driver's license, you do have to put your fingerprint on registration with the state government. And I'm sure they share it with law enforcement. So I'm not so worried that the phone knows my fingerprint or that Apple knows my fingerprint. I'm a little more worried that Google knows every Wi-Fi password in the world. This is another interesting issue. When you set up a new Google phone, it automatically, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but it knows what Wi-Fi access points there are, and it logs you in. It has your password. And so a researcher started thinking about it and said, well, that means the password's being uploaded to Google. Yes, that's part of the backup. You can uncheck that if you want, but it's a nice convenience. By now, with hundreds of millions of smartphones out there, Google probably knows every Wi-Fi password in the world. And if Google knows it, well, you know the government knows it. But that's enough of that. I wanted to get depressed. Let's talk to you. Your phone calls next. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. I am Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Let's go to the first calls of the day, starting with British Columbia. Dave up there in BC. Hi, Dave. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, how you doing, Leo?
I'm great.
Long-time listener. I listened through, the Screensaver's Call for Help, and what was that latest show? The Lab.
The Lab we did in Vancouver up your way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
also,
That goes
obviously,
back a
listened to
long
your
way.
radio show for many years, too. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
That's great. I really
stuff.
appreciate it. Well, thanks. I appreciate you calling in, Dave. What can I do for you?
I have a question about Google's phone service, because Google has a phone service, do they not?
Yeah, it's not a voice. It's sometimes I think people mischaracterize it as voice over the internet, like Skype. It's not.
Okay.
But it's a little confusing what it does and doesn't do. It's called Google Voice. And I don't think, is it available in Canada? I think not.
Yeah, I just actually started. I actually just got an email from them saying that I could sign
You're
up.
kidding?
I recently did
Hallelujah.
sign up, so.
Wow, that's great. You know, that's one of the things I think Google Voice is the best thing since sliced bread. But a lot of people outside the U.S. hear me talk about it and get mad because they can't get it. So that's great news. So let me explain a little bit about what it is. In fact, it's a little confusing to me, even though I've been using it for years. It was a company called Grand Central, which Google bought some years ago. And the idea was it was a cloud-based PBX system, in effect. The couple of the features, there's a lot of them, but a couple of the features are you get a Google Voice number that is your number. It can be your number for life, or at least until the life of the Google Voice, at least till Google Voice goes out of business. And that's handy because you can have, I think, 5 or 6 phones forward to that number automatically. You could say to Google Voice or rather vice versa. You could say to Google Voice, when a number comes in to my Google Voice number, I'll call it a GV number for convenience. When a call comes into my GV number, forward it to one or all of these phones. So, for instance, many of us have a cell phone. Maybe you might want to have one for work and one for home. You might have a home phone. You might have a phone at the office. That's 4 right there. You can have all 4 of them tied to that Google Voice number. And when somebody calls you, it can ring. But you can do a lot more. That's just that's the beginning. Among other things it can do is if you categorize your Google contacts, it can handle different callers differently. So I have a group of callers that I call family. I've marked in my Google contacts these people family. They get one voicemail message. People I don't know get another voicemail message. You can even say, hey, if there's no caller ID on this, go straight to voicemail. I don't want it. You can block numbers that way as well. Or you can have a special voicemail for numbers, ex-girlfriends. I told you not to call me here. Whatever you want. So that's great. Customized voicemail messages. Then there's also the ability to put Google Voice, the application, onto your phone. There's a Google Voice app for Android. I don't think there's one for iPhone yet, but they're third-party. Maybe there is. There was a fight. I guess they did get it on, didn't they? And that'll do a couple of things. One, you can use it for texting. It uses your internet access, not your cell phone texting limit, to text, to send SMS messages to phones. It'll receive text messages to your Google Voice number. And you can also place calls, but placing calls is the one thing where it gets a little weird, and this is why I say it's not VoIP. And this seems to be changing in some ways, but when you call from a smartphone using Google Voice, it will call you back. You call a number, and then it says, okay, I'll call you back. And then it uses a landline to call that number and call you back. It has very inexpensive international calling. And in the U.S., I don't know what they're going to do in Canada, but in the U.S., it's free. It still is free, and it has been every year. They extend it another year, but free to anywhere in the U.S. So it's a very inexpensive way to make phone calls. I think that's the list, but I'm sure there's more. It's a very sophisticated system, and I love it. And it's free. That's by the way, I buried the lead. It's free to do all that. Now there are more sophisticated systems out there, like our sponsor Ring Central and so forth. But for a lot of people, Google Voice is all you need. Here's what I do, Dave. Sign up for it, for sure. And then use it as do with it as you want. It doesn't hurt to have it.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks for the call. I'm really glad you called. And
Thanks a lot.
I'm thrilled that they're getting it out your way, up above the 49th parallel. That's really good news. Boy, people have been waiting for that for a long time. Ryan in Salt Lake City, Utah, you're next. Hi, Ryan. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. How are you doing?
I'm great.
As most of the folks calling in, long-time listener and watcher, first-time caller, so I really appreciate you letting me listen and watch.
Yeah, it's really nice. We're able to get more people today than we normally do, who and sometimes can't get in at all. So I'm really glad we can do this. What can I do for you?
I probably started when I was about 13, so glad you've been around for a while.
As long as you're not 40, I'm okay.
All right.
What can I do for you, Ryan?
So right now in my car, I have some generic stereo that has some Bluetooth capabilities where I can stream in my phone conversations and music from the Android, right?
Right.
I would like to get rid of that stereo and just have an Android tablet take its place. And so what I'm hoping to get from you is a holy grail combination of devices and apps that'll let me have my tablet in the dash. I can play music just fine, stream my phone conversations and text to the tablet, be able to answer and make calls from my tablet using my phone. But
this is great. I love this idea. I've seen people do this with an iPad. So, of course, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to carve a hole in your dashboard for this thing and provide it with power, but you also have to get audio out of it. And that can be done through, depending on the tablet, but most tablets can be done through the USB port. If it has, it has to have the capability of putting audio out the USB port. But the Nexus 7 and others, I think, do. Now, the next question is, you want to control the tablet, and that's going to be a little bit more tricksy. In fact, I'm trying to think how you might want to do this. I'm going to have to. This might be one we got to get the chat room into.
I'm not looking for anything too exciting, but for example, if my phone rings, I want to be able to answer from the tablet and not have to dig my phone out of my pocket and hit the answer button.
Wow.
I mean, it seems like such an easy little request, but I've yet to figure out how to do something.
Wow. Well, yeah. I'm going to need more coffee, I think. I can't bend my mind around this, because this isn't usually how people do it. Usually they have a head end, which has Bluetooth, A2DP, and phone, and then they use their phone, or I guess you could use a tablet that way. I think this might be a solution for Google Voice, come to think of it, now that we're talking about Google Voice. You'll put Google Voice on the tablet. Incoming calls will actually go directly to the tablet. Boy, this is
Is that just via a Bluetooth connection, or would I have to?
No, the tablet would. Well, and that's the other thing is you're going to you need more than Bluetooth. You probably want the tablet to get Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Oh, this is
I would need a data connection on it. I mean, I
this is tricksy. Yeah, the reason you want the tablet is because you want this nice big screen.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I don't know. This one I might have to punt on. Let me think about it. I like this idea. You buy a Tesla S, one of those new electric cars. It's got a 17-inch monitor in the middle. In fact, in a way, that seems a little bit distracting to have this. But this is one maybe the chat room can help you with. 8888 Ask Leo is our number. Chat room is at techguylabs.com. Click that chat link. Chat room, I'm going to give you an assignment. Let's get a Nexus 7 in the dash. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I am Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Each and every week at this time, our home theater geek joins us, and he likes to be called that. Scott Wilkinson. It's the name of his podcast on our Twit network, Home Theater Geeks. He's also the editorial director at the AVS Forum. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Leo.
Happy to have you here on this fine weekend. What do you want to talk about today? You got some questions?
I do. I get a lot of questions by email.
How do people get a hold of you if they have a question?
Well, it's very easy. You can simply email me at scott@techguylabs.com.
Very good.
Very simple.
Now, I imagine you get enough mail that you can't answer each one individually.
I'm afraid I can't. Yeah. No, that it really is much too much volume, as I'm sure you get as well.
Yeah. We can't answer them all, but
we can't answer them all. But I try and do as many of as I can, and I like answering them on the show here because I'm sure there are a lot of people who have similar questions. Good. You can also, if you're a member of AVS Forum, you can send a question to me. You can personal message or PM me at AVS Forum. Or even better is to post questions in the forums themselves. And there are many different forums for display devices, LCD TVs, plasma TVs, audio products.
It's
if you have a question about speakers.
Boy, if you're seriously into video,
Yeah. Or audio.
There's nothing better than AVS.
There's over 1 million members, and they're always on there talking about stuff. And so if you post a question in a forum, you'll get a ton of responses, probably more information, TMI, as they say.
Yeah.
But in any event, I do like to answer questions here on the show as well. And I got a question from Michael Drury, who's looking to put together a home theater room with a projector and was wondering about a projector and a perforated screen. In other words, an acoustically transparent screen for a total price of around $5,000. Well, that's eminently doable. Now, let me talk about the projector first. The projector, in that kind of price range, my first go-to company would be Epson. And they have a number of LCD projectors. They make LCD projectors. And their projectors, the 5020 and the 6020 are the kind of the higher end. I think the 6020 is around $3,000. 5020 is less than that. The 3020 is even less than that. And all of them, though, I mean, Epson has just really taken the field for inexpensive, high-quality projectors. So that really is the place I would start. I recently profiled a home theater in which the guy had spent $100,000, and he was more interested in audio.
Wow.
And soundproofing, and he had done some amazing things with soundproofing, and really great speakers and subwoofers and stuff. What was the projector he put in that $100,000 theater? An Epson 6020.
Oh, interesting. How much is that?
I think it's in the order of $3,000, maybe $3,500 list.
That's amazing, really.
It's not bad.
Yeah. And you're really talking, one of the advantages of projection is how big the screen can be.
Precisely. And that's really the point there, is you can get a much bigger picture than you can with any flat panel. I mean, you can get flat panels that big, but you're going to pay six figures. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. For that whole theater, you could buy an 85 or a 100-inch plasma, but that's all you'd have.
Right.
Plus, you'd have to have a crane lifted into your room.
Right. They have to take the roof off. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So a projector is really what you want for a big screen experience.
And so $5,000 total is doable.
Right. It is. Now, what he's talking about in terms of a perforated screen, you might remember me saying that.
Movie theaters have those, don't they?
Exactly.
In fact, when you go to IMAX, I don't know if your IMAX does this, but the one in San Francisco, they do this whole preamble about how great their sound system is, and they light the speakers behind the screen, and you can actually you could see through the screen, and there's the speaker.
Right, exactly. All commercial cinemas do that, and the reason is you want the sound. Well, no, that too, but you want the sound to come from where it appears to be coming on the screen.
Right.
So if you have the speakers outside of the screen area, you might get a little cognitive dissonance, as it were. So the way that theaters do it is that they actually poke little pinholes in the screen. And you can get that for your home theater as well, but it's not my preferred way to do an acoustically transparent screen, because with little pinholes, you have to put the speakers back behind the screen maybe as much as 12 inches. So you need a lot of space back there. Yeah. You also have to EQ them kind of weirdly to
compensate for the screen. Yeah,
exactly. Now, there's another approach to acoustically transparent screens, and that is a woven material that has little gaps between the fibers that make up the screen. And most screen companies nowadays actually, this is what they do for acoustically transparent screens. They actually provide a woven material. So Elite Screens is one company. Seymour AV is another company. ViewTech, I think, also does that. Daylight, I think, also does that. I'm not 100% sure about those last two, but I know that Elite and Seymour do. And Elite is actually a pretty economical solution. Screens can be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
But, if you go to elitescreens.com, I think is their URL, certainly Google them, you'll find them. You will find a pretty reasonably priced screen. Now, how big a screen do you want? He doesn't ask this around. Certainly the larger the screen, the more expensive it's going to be. Plus, if you want to feature like a motorized screen that drops down from the ceiling when you use it and then folds back up into the ceiling when you don't use it, that's going to be a lot more expensive too. Better, more economical certainly, to get a fixed screen, one that just sits there all the time. which is, I think, the way to go with speakers behind the screen, because if you were to lift up that screen, all of a sudden you'd see those speakers in their alcove. You could design it to look nice if you wanted, but I think having a fixed screen in this situation, that theater I was mentioning earlier has a fixed screen from Seymour AV.
In all of this, I'm just blown away that for such a fancy theater, you're talking a projector that's only a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
Kind of surprised me. You could spend a lot more.
Oh, you can spend a whole heck of a lot more.
Yeah. But
go to a company like Digital Projection, and you can spend 5-6 figures on a projector easily. Or you could even go so far as to buy a digital cinema projector, and that's only for the biggest, most
Runco or Christie or something like that.
Exactly.
That's the ones they have here at our local theater. So the Epson, what model did you like?
I really like. I actually have a 5020 myself. It's called the PowerLight Pro, PowerLight Home Cinema 5020, or PowerLight Pro Cinema 6020. And the only real difference between them is that the 6020 is black and the 5020 is white. That may or may not make any difference, but the 6020 has, I think, an extra year warranty and a spare lamp. That's very important.
Yeah, how much are the lamps on these?
They can be several $100s.
Wow. And how often do they burn out?
Every couple thousand hours of use.
That's something to keep
in
mind.
So that is something very important to keep in mind, and I'm glad I thought to mention it, is that, over time, the lamp, at the very beginning, the lamp's very bright and kind of settles down to a plateau, and then it puts out a certain amount of light for 1,000 or 2,000 hours or so, and then it starts decreasing in its brightness until it becomes pretty dim. So you need to factor that cost into the cost of owning a projector. Projector's great for having that big picture, as we said, but you also need kind of a dark room unless you get what's called an ambient light rejecting screen, which is going to cost you more money, but you can watch it with some ambient light. So if you hold a Super Bowl party, something like that, you can do that. But what Michael wants to do, around $5,000, eminently doable.
Good. I should mention that they do have Epson has less expensive cinema projectors as well.
Oh yeah, they do.
They go as low as they're well under $1,000.
Yeah, exactly.
This is fun for a party, a pool party, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, they just introduced the 2030, which I think is right around $1,000 for 1080p. It's probably great. I haven't looked at it yet, but I'll see it at the CEDIA show when I go.
I should also mention that Epson, I think, is a sponsor. Scott doesn't know that, though. So
no,
he did that completely independently, folks.
Absolutely.
We just happen to like Epson. That's why they're a sponsor. Scott Wilkinson, avsforum.com, and the Home Theater Geeks podcast every Monday on the Twit Network. Thanks for joining us. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're still working with the chat room, trying to figure out how to put a Nexus. There's so many challenges. First of all, you're carving a hole in the dashboard. Somebody wanted to put an Android tablet in his dash and use that for everything. There's an app called Tablet Talk, according to Web 7776 in our chat room, that can pick up phone calls from your phone through Bluetooth. That's clever, Tablet Talk. Because, usually it goes the other way. The phone picks up and then projects. Okay, so Tablet Talk, okay, that's one. You're probably going to want to use the car, an amplifier, that's right, to hook up to the Nexus 7 to drive the speaker, says Andrew in Ohio. And Kennedy has given us a link to phonedog.com. Have you ever considered mounting a tablet in your car? I have seen a friend of mine actually put an iPad in his, but I don't know if he was doing all of that. Seemed to be so much easier to get a head end, a rather regular head unit, but then you don't get the nice big screen. Anyway, that's from our call from a couple of minutes ago. Let's get back to the phones. More callers here. Canalay in Pullman, Washington. Hey, Canalay, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Leo. Thanks for taking my call. I'm new to Twit, and so my wife gets mad at me now because it's all I watch. So
we actually have had honeymooners come to watch the show, and I always look at them and think that's a great harbinger of a future, or they're going to be divorced in months, because it either means she's very tolerant of it, or he's very tolerant of her tech Jones, or she didn't know about it and she's starting to wonder already. Anyway, thank your wife for letting us have you.
I got a quick question. Well, I hope it's quick. I teach at a university. I teach TV production.
Oh, great.
And every night we do a nightly newscast for our town. So it gets broadcasted over the cable system.
Is it public access kind of?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, that's neat.
So now the higher-ups above me want a bigger audience, so they want to reach our alumni.
This kills me every time. There's even in public broadcasting, they always want a bigger audience.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I kind of thought of an idea to stream, but every time I go to the engineers, we kind of get stumped on a little setup. So we switched with a Sony MVX 7000X.
Oh, that's nice.
So tons of outputs for us.
That's a hardware switcher, right?
Yes, yeah.
What can you get out of it to send to a streaming machine? SDI, HDMI?
Yeah, SDI. Yeah.
So here's what we do. We have exactly the same kind of setup. Except we use a TriCaster, but it has SDI, which is serial digital interface. Folks, it's a pro version of your HDMI, basically. Comes out of the back of it. And that we send to a computer with a Blackmagic card, because we have to convert the SDI into something the computer can understand. Mm-hmm. So Blackmagic makes these cards, PC cards, for computers. And that'll give the computer a video signal, just like it's hooked up to a camera, right? Like a webcam.
Right.
And then you can use a variety of different tools to stream it. Probably you'll want to use Ustream or the like, because Ustream's free, right? Justin.tv, one of those, will give you free streaming access for your alumni. And, you just say, hey, what's the school?
Washington State University.
Here's the are you Huskies or Ducks or no?
Cougs. No, we don't do Huskies. We don't do Huskies.
Animals confuse me. You're a what? A Krug?
A Coug.
Cougar. Okay. So you say, hey, here's Cougar TV is on Ustream, and it could even be Ustream.com, Ustream.tv rather /Cougar TV or something like that. We're Ustream.tv /Twit. Whenever they tune in, whenever you're streaming, and you can even have reruns and stuff on Ustream. So the trick is getting it into a computer, which becomes your encoding machine. Now, we were doing that for a long time with a plain old PC. We've actually purchased, and this is what you tell the big shots. All righty, you want to be in a bigger audience, you got to get me an Elemental. Elemental does the same thing, but it's $25,000.
Oh, they have tons of money, right?
They got money. This is for the boosters. Because, the next thing they're going to want to do is put Cougar football on the stream.
Right.
In fact, that's a big moneymaker for a lot of colleges, is broadcasting the football games to the alum.
That's right.
Right?
Because it makes a lot of money.
It makes you money because the alumni donate.
Right.
Or even pay to see these games. I know Notre Dame has streams their games on the internet. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the Cougars have an equally devoted alumni base. So the Elemental, here's what the Elemental does. It's more robust. It's designed just to do this. It's still a PC running encoding and all of that stuff, but I think it has SDI in. That's what we ended up using. We bought one of those. We had a little bake sale and raised some money, and we bought one of those. And that's what we've been using. And that works pretty well. My old studio engineer, Colleen Henry, who went on to the big time at Google, has been banging on me for years. She said, why are you still doing it with a PC? That's so 1990s. Why don't you get an Elemental? So that's the two ways to do it. You're going to need a PC with a Blackmagic encoding card, and then Ustream has the Ustream producer, which just run on it and encode it into Flash and send it to Ustream. Doesn't need a lot of bandwidth because you're not hosting it. Ustream's hosting it.
Okay.
And it's free.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. That's kind of a little inside baseball, isn't it? I mean, we're inside Cougar football. But that's what we're doing. In fact, we're doing it right now. We do it with all of our shows. What kind of happened was we were making audio podcasts, right, of this show, and I do about 13 other shows. We do a total of something like 25 or 30 other shows. And we were recording them for audio, and then I thought, well, we could put a camera on it. People could watch it, and then it just kind of got out of control. Now we have 40 cameras. We have a 10,000 square foot studio. We have a switcher. We have technical directors. We have people pushing buttons, and all of it goes squeezed out to Ustream or just both, actually, Ustream, Justin TV. You can see it at twit.tv. You can see me right now. It's kind of amazing that it works. It feels a little bit like a MacGyver operation with the chicken wire and chewing gum, but it actually works. And if you think about it, it could I think it is the future of broadcast television as well. Right now, if you're watching broadcast television, you're either watching it through the airwaves, free over-the-air, OTA TV, or more likely you're watching it on a cable or satellite connection, right? Through Time Warner or Comcast or Dish or DirecTV, that kind of thing. Well, many of those companies are providing you also with high-speed internet access. So the question becomes, well, what's the difference really between sending me NBC, CBS, and ABC over this? And the difference is money. They charge you. But increasingly, you probably noticed this. You can watch all this stuff over the internet. In fact, that big ruckus between CBS and Time Warner, remember where Time Warner said, we're not going to show CBS programming and they want too much money? Well, Time Warner subscribers said, fine, we'll just go on the internet and watch it on CBS.com. And so CBS said, no, you don't. And they had to block the internet as well as the television. Because you know what? It's the same thing. If you have Hulu Plus, if you have Netflix, HBO Go, there's a lot of ways you can watch this kind of content over the internet. But here's the most important thing. It also means that you don't have to have a broadcast license, millions of dollars worth of transmitter and so forth to do this. You can be in Pullman, Washington, broadcasting Cougar football games or lectures or the nightly news. And it's much easier. You do it over the internet. In fact, I'm wondering really why more of these community access stations aren't doing internet as opposed to broadcast. The cable companies are supposed to give community access cable. But, why spend all that energy? I kind of counsel them. You really should be looking to the future, which is doing this on the internet. Then you go not only everywhere where that cable system goes, you go everywhere in the world. You go everywhere where somebody has enough internet to watch, and that's about an audience of 1 billion people. That's huge. And it's very big for universities. More and more of them are doing this for their football teams and other sports. They're streaming the football games. Notre Dame, quite famously, makes a lot of money because they pay a subscription fee to stream the football games. And if you're an alum and you're in New York City, if you're Regis Philbin and you miss your Notre Dame football and you've got no way to see it because it's not broadcast in New York City, no problem. You fire up the browser and you watch it. And increasingly, TVs are coming now with built-in capabilities to do this. Ustream is on Roku, and it's just a matter of time before a lot of programming. And it's been great for me as a broadcaster because we can bring you this radio show over the internet. For a while, I was talking to DirecTV. DirecTV wanted to put the radio show on the 101, but the deal fell through. But this was a few years ago. But I don't need to be on DirecTV because as long as you got internet access, you can watch it. So you can listen to it on your local radio station, but you can watch it anywhere you got internet access. And that's huge. That to me is the transformation of media that is ongoing. It's beginning and it's starting and it's going to be huge. And by the way, that company Blackmagic is one of the companies to watch because they make all the hardware. The company needs to do that, from the switchers to the boxes and everything. All right, we're going to take a break for your local news, and we will be back with a lot more of the Tech Guy Show. As I mentioned, the website is techguylabs.com. If you go there, you get all our show notes. You can comment. You can add your suggestions. And, of course, you can also join the channel. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. I am Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Hello there. Hour 2 of the Tech Guy Show, taking your calls, answering your questions, talking about computers, the internet, and smartphones, and all of the doodads and G-Jaws and Jim Cracks and thingamajigs that occupy our lives these days. You can visit the website. If you hear something that you go, what did Leo mentioned? What's the website? I got it all. James DeRuvo, our Secretary General, is writing this all down. Scribble, 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 putting it up on the website, techguylabs.com. After the show, Mr. Josh Windish, the newlywed Josh Windish, will take all of that, flesh it out, add to it. I love this. Thanks to the miracle of the internet, audio and video from YouTube. And what's really cool, if you go to techguylabs.com, you can actually jump to any question from the show and go right to that point in the audio or the video and see it. You can see the question. You can see my answer. Read the transcript of the answer. And then, and this is the most important, and I always mention this, I want to really encourage you to do it. Please don't be shy. Add your comments. If you're the person, I know there are a lot of you. I was talking to somebody yesterday, my good friend John Belmont from AP News, one of the great voices of radio news, 19 years on ABC News. And his wife was standing there. She said, "You should hear him yell at you." I said, "What?" She said, "We're listening in the car on the radio, and he is yelling." If you're so John or anybody who's yelling back at the radio, you don't have to yell unheard. Your opinion is valuable to us. So please visit the website, techguylabs.com, and add your thoughts in the comments. Go to that question and answer, the one you were yelling at. If you think I'm wrong, and I certainly have been in the past, I don't anticipate ever being wrong again, but it could happen. Put your correction there. If you think there's a different way to do what I was mentioning, or you have some experience with the problem our caller was asking about, I'd love it if you would put it there. And you have my assurance. This site is free and always will be. We have no intention of charging. I know some radio shows charge for access to their website, not us. Podcasts are free, always, audio and video. The website is free. I want this to be a resource for everybody. And the reason we don't have to charge, we have great advertisers. Sold out since day one, and you can thank them by patronizing them. And I thank them because that makes it possible for us to do this absolutely free. TechGuyLabs.com. Did you update to iOS 7? Maybe if you got a new iPhone, you've got iOS 7. I guess the new iPads will come with iOS 7. And, of course, it's now been, about 2 weeks, 11 days since iOS 7 was available for download. My advice to everybody was not to rush out and download it. That's true of any new operating system. If you have an iPhone or an iPad, it's not a bad idea to wait. It's hard to wait, I know. But it's a good idea to wait if you can, because there's always little issues. By now, we should have a pretty good idea. I haven't seen any major problems, but you can go to the various Apple websites and see if people are complaining, or Apple support forums, see if people have had problems. And, of course, the other thing, you want to give the developers a chance to update their apps. Some apps did not work with iOS 7, so you do want to give them time to do that. What's interesting, to my mind, and certainly this is something developers have had to pay attention to, is Apple has set a kind of new bar for how apps, how their user interface works. I'm looking at an article from GigaOM by Jeffrey Getz, who says why iOS 7 forced developers to redesign their apps for experienced smartphone users. That's really, if there's a headline here with iOS 7. I mean, of course, I'm paying attention to the fact that it looks different. I'm not crazy about how it looks. It works different, and they have this new control center that slides up and all that. But really, there is a bigger message here, which is we no longer have to design computer applications, and this includes smartphone applications, in a way that makes you feel at home, that kind of helps you understand how to use it. We don't have to handhold the users anymore. That was the reason for this original, what they called skeuomorphic design, the idea that if you can make it look like a real thing, a folder, a directory, for instance, should look like a manila folder. In fact, it still does on most computer operating systems, right? That if it's a clock app, it should have a clock face on it. That it should be obvious that where the menu is, all of these little cues from real life, because at least when it first came out with the iPhone, iOS was talking to less experienced novice users, and they felt they had to kind of handhold you. So what's really happening is very interesting. Apple has decided that we can go digital native. We no longer have to make things look like stitched leather or torn paper. We no longer have to have yellow pads with blue lines. We don't have to make it look like the real world, because people have been using digital technology long enough now. We're comfortable in the digital world. We can do it as a digital product. And that is what, in fact, is the big change for developers, for app developers in iOS 7. So it's not just flat. It's not just no more shadows or bevels or bezels. It's more than that. I mean, we are getting rid of the stitch leather, and it's ironic, isn't it, that Samsung's just released the Galaxy Note 3 with a stitched leather back, and it actually stitched with like a baseball. Nevertheless, we're getting rid of pictures of stitched leather. We're getting rid of torn pages. iPhone users, Apple's telling developers, are more experienced now. So apps need to be redesigned to look less like real world, more like digital apps. GigaOM quotes Rafael Kuzin, who is the founder and CTO at BillGuard. He says, like it or not, we knew iOS 7 would shift overnight what people would expect. So we put our app roadmap on hold and immediately started working on our iOS 7 version. And that's what almost all App Store developers have had to do. Whoa, they say, whoa. There is a book that people have to read, the Human Interface Guidelines. Apple writes this, and you're expected to hew pretty closely to this, or you may not get approved by Apple in the App Store. And it specifies exactly how apps should look, how they should be designed. Kuzin says iOS 7 guidelines and design paved the way for a much lighter app experience. He's not talking about lighter and brighter. He's talking about simpler. Content first, designed second. And boy, when you look at iOS 7, that suddenly comes clear, doesn't it? Look at the calendar app if you have it. Very clean, very simple. No reference to a desktop calendar anymore. That's gone. This is a digital calendar. And I guess I like this. I guess this is where we had to go, frankly. So one reason you might want to wait is because these apps need to be updated. Now, if you don't like the look of iOS 7, if you wish there was stitched leather and torn pages, well, I think you're kind of out of luck. This was a design style pioneered by Microsoft. Microsoft called it Metro because they were emulating the clean, simple lines of the Swiss Metro, believe it or not, the Swiss National Railways. The signs there and everything, very square, flat, no rounded corners. Apple pioneered rounded corners. Steve Jobs loved rounded corners. Not anymore. Corners are square. There's no more drop shadows. Everything's clean. And you know what? I don't know if Microsoft gets enough credit for this because they really did advance the design language. And I like it, but, I'm not sure I'm crazy about the pastel colors and the very thin typefaces. Very narrow Helvetica. I'm not crazy about it, but I guess I'll get used to it. If you haven't updated, take a look. Go to the Apple Store, get a friend, make sure you like it, and make sure your apps work on it. All right, back to the phones we go. I am Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yes, taking your calls, answering your questions, talking about high tech. Back to the phones we go. Aaron is in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Hello, Aaron.
Hey, Leah. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it.
First off, I just got to thank you and the entire TWIT team for doing what you do. I've been watching TWIT religiously for over a year now. I'm in the chat room under the nick Dem90, and let me tell you, that chat room is one of the best communities ever assembled in the history of the world.
Wow, you go. I really thank you, and it is a lot of credit goes to the volunteer chat mods who come in there, and they really work hard because one of the things you may not notice, but one of the things that's true about all online communities is they take a lot of gardening. Somebody's really got to be on top of it, paying attention, and our main moderator, Dan, and Brad, and Canuck, and Cheeto, and Can We Bowl, Please, and Houdini 7, and Legat, and Life's a Zoo, and Mick, and Rubicam, and Scooter X, and Slyferret, and Texan, and TTK. There's so many now, I can't even name them all. They really work hard, and it does make it a good community. And it's one of the things we do is we want it to be family friendly, so parents don't mind if their kids visit. TechGuyLabs.com. Click the chat link, and you can join Dem90. Do you work in politics, Aaron?
No, I don't. It's funny how I got that nickname because, again, I started watching in July of last year, and that's when the campaign season was really heating up. So I looked over to my desk, and I had a bumper sticker, and I guess it said Democrats, and I thought, that's my nick.
I'll use that one.
Just going with it.
You know what's so funny is people create nicknames, and some of them are very old from bulletin board days and stuff, and then you're stuck with it.
Right.
And we have you heard me read the nicknames of our chatters. And our chat mods, and I'm sure many of them had those for more than a decade. It's so funny. And then you just have it forever, and you have to explain.
Like I said, once you have it, you can't change it because then they don't know who you are.
They won't know who you are. That's your identity going forward. And most of the time, there is that much thought or less put into it.
Anyway, I'm calling on behalf of my dad, so I'm not as dumb as I'm about to sound, but he finally bit the bullet and got a Samsung Galaxy S3 from Verizon. And it doesn't come with a very good email app.
Right.
It's the Verizon crapware kind of thing. And I was wondering, what is the best standalone email app that he can get in the Google Play Store?
If he uses Gmail, the Google Gmail app is the best. But
well, here's the thing. He doesn't use Gmail.
Yeah.
He's one of the very few people who still use Outlook.com.
Okay. I like K9, which has been around a long time, K-9, just like the doggy. It is a very full-featured. Now, nothing on a phone is going to be as full-featured as your desktop client.
Right.
You can. I don't think there's an Outlook app. There should be an Outlook app. I don't think there's an Outlook app for Android. Now, of course, he has a Google address probably because in order to use an Android phone, you almost always create a Google account.
Yeah, I helped him set that up.
Okay. Oh, there is an Outlook app. The chat room's going crazy. Well, I didn't know that. So I'll have to take a look. So there is an Outlook app. In general, I found it is best if you're using Yahoo Mail, Gmail, to use their native app. They just kind of understand the ins and outs of the app better. So I would try the Outlook app. I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, I did check the Outlook app, but it seems to have a lot of negative reviews, so I wasn't sure if you should actually go with that.
Anything Microsoft does on an Android device is going to get negative reviews, not because it's bad, but just because it's, Microsoft. It looks pretty clean. It looks nice. What's nice about it is it looks a lot like Outlook.com, which is what he's using, so he's going to be a little bit comfortable. You're right. The negative, there's 45,000 one-star reviews compared to 23,000. It's really kind of down the middle for 4-star or 5-star reviews. 30-day limit. Okay, so you can't save the messages for more than 30 days. I don't think that's a bad thing. So I would try it. Maybe. Do you have an Android phone too?
I actually have a Nexus 7, and that comes with a Google stock email app, which works fine for
Yeah, the Gmail app. If you use Gmail, you might try to get your dad to use Gmail. If you use Gmail, the Gmail app is superior. In fact, one of the things I like, Gmail just recently, in like the last few months, added this kind of auto-categorization, which really works quite well. I'm not talking about the priority inbox. They tried that, and they dumped it. Now you have your primary inbox, and you have as many as 3 other folders: social, updates, and forums. And the software is very smart about sorting it out. And I find it really makes a big difference. I quite like it. Plus, Gmail has absolutely, bar none, the best anti-spam. Now, is he paranoid about Google? Does he not want Google to see his mail?
I doubt it. He probably couldn't care less.
Okay. Then here's what I would do. Forward his Outlook mail to Google, to his Gmail. He has a Gmail account because he probably had to set one up for. I guess you don't have to, but almost everybody does.
Yeah, he has a Google account.
You kind of have to, right? Yeah.
Right, to get the apps and everything.
To get the apps, yeah. So that means he has a Gmail account under that name. He probably doesn't even know that. So what I would do is have Gmail get his mail from Outlook, and then use the Gmail app, and he might find he likes it. I think the Gmail app has things like swiping, so you can swipe stuff off if you want to archive it. Just swipe, swipe, swipe. I think it is a very I wasn't a fan for a long time, but I think now it's the best mobile app for mail out there. And then K9 is another one that's more traditional. Let me ask you this: does his Outlook.com support IMAP or POP? Do you know?
I think it does because I have an iPhone and I have it set up to where it's pushed onto my iPhone, so I'd imagine it does.
Yeah. So that's the key is you need, remember in the old days of Hotmail, you couldn't get Hotmail any other way. You had to use Microsoft's products. But I guess Microsoft's woken up and smelled the coffee. So that's good. That means you could get Gmail. This is another thing is you don't even have to really know you're using Gmail. Just have Gmail get his Outlook. You could still use, dad@outlook.com. But Gmail will get the mail from Outlook.com, sort it all out, get rid of the spam, and it works really great. So K9 is a more traditional app. It's fine. It's good. It's open source. I've used it. But I think Gmail, of all the apps available on Android, Gmail, the native Gmail, you've used it on the Nexus 7. That's the best app. All right?
All right.
Thanks for helping your dad.
All right. Keep up the great work.
All right, Dem90. We'll see you in the chat room.
Will do. I'm going to go right there right now.
That's awesome. What's very gratifying is to know that there's new people coming in, listening. Because, sometimes you'll hear people say, Leo, I've been listening to you since I was 12. Well, we just heard that, didn't we? and I think, all I got is people who've been listening forever. Let's get some new blood. So, Aaron, that's great. That's great. Got a little new blood. The other thing is the chat room does have some great people who can give us recommendations. We often, there's Dem90 in the chat room saying, how did I do? I love it. We often have guys in there who are pretty sophisticated who might be able to give you some tips as well. K9, Gmail, actually Yahoo. If you use Yahoo Mail, Yahoo Mail is very good. I'll try Outlook Mail, Outlook.com. I'll install it right now. I haven't tried it before, but I do have an Outlook account, of course. So I'll try that. It looks clean. It looks nice. I'm not sure why people don't like it. It may merely be that it's just because it's an Outlook. It's from Microsoft. We hate it just because. That's why. Just because. Well, let's take a break. We'll come back with more. 8888 Ask Leo's the phone number. The chat room, techguylabs.com. That's where the website is. If you have a suggestion you'd like to pass along to Aaron, you can also do that at our website. We put the questions and answers up and have comments, too, for anybody who has anything to ask. More to come in just a bit. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. I am Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Look at that guy there. Jet lag, no. He's rested. He's tanned. He feels good. And I can tell because I'm touching him right now. It's Johnny Jet, the travel guru. Johnny. Welcome. Good to talk to you as we do every week.
Too. I'm shaved and I got a haircut.
Yeah, this is I always blows me away because whenever I'm on a plane, I come off it. I look like heck. I'm ragged. I cannot sleep. It's horrible. In fact, I bet you the number one complaint about people is these seats that you can't sleep when you're sitting straight up.
How did you know? My story this week is 9 ways to sleep better on a plane.
Thank you. I'm ready.
And before we go into it, by the way,
yeah.
One way to look fresh when you land, especially before your big European flight, is to take a shower right before you get on the plane.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So, and I know you're flying business class, so you can get into the lounge, and there's gonna, and I'm sure it's a red-eye flight, so it's gonna be at night.
Yep.
Or do it from home.
Well, it's a 3 p.m. It's 3 p.m., but it arrives the next morning in Frankfurt, and then we go on.
Okay, so that's okay. So
it's a little weird. I know. It's weird.
That's good. Actually, I prefer those flights.
Okay.
So what you do is, right before you get to the airport, take a shower or wash your hair. That way, when you land,
you feel fresh on the plane too.
Feel fresh, and you're not going to look like ragged like I normally do.
Yeah. They give you that's one. There is really not much benefit to business class except that you had some more comfortable seat. You can sleep in it.
I had to disagree. There's a lot difference. There's a big difference between.
So it's better. I'm just trying to make it feel all right for people who can't do it. It's expensive. Nobody can really.
Oh my God, it's ridiculously expensive. So I mean, that's why you got to try and get it for free. I never pay for. I don't think I've ever paid for a business class ticket.
Oh, you don't want to.
I've actually had a corporation paid for.
It's so expensive. So, and they give you a little ditty kit with toothpaste and toothbrush. That's nice. Slippers. I flew on Qantas. They gave me jammies.
Yeah, some airlines do that, and I keep those jammies. So when I'm flying other airlines,
right?
So that what, I forgot to put that in my story. That's a very good.
Bring jammies.
Jammies. Seriously, after you take off, go into the bathroom, and put your jammies on.
Really?
Yes. You don't want to be in tight clothing, restricted clothing, like tight jeans or anything. You're not going to be able to sleep. So bring jammies, and then right before you land, like an hour before or 45 minutes, get up and change so you're not walking through the airport looking like
in your jammies.
But what's important is that let's say you're flying coach and the airline does not provide you with one of those little amenity kits. Make your own.
Oh yeah, good idea.
What's in it is an eye mask, and I don't like the ones
they're not comfy. Anyway. No, bring an eye mask. Yeah.
Spend $10 and get one of those really cushy, comfortable ones.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
I think I like the one from, I think it's Buckeye or something.
Okay.
I love it. So I look like a freak, but I feel good.
No, that's really good. And in fact, sealing out the sound and the light makes a big difference on a plane. What do you do for sound?
So I bring earplugs.
Yeah.
I also bring a noise cancellation.
Like the Bose Quiet Comforts or something like that.
You know what? These actually make your ears feel kind of warm. So they actually have the new ones that are earbuds.
That's what I use. I use in-ear monitors. They go in my ear and they seal out the sound, just like earplugs. But then I put nice relaxing classical music on. And I don't hear the engine. I don't hear announcements. It's just very peaceful.
Well, you want to hear announcements.
Well, I figured they'll nudge me if the plane's on fire. Oh, Mr. Laporte, the plane's on fire. Would you wake up, please?
There's also apps out there for soft music or white noise.
Pizziz. You ever use Pizziz?
No, I never even heard of it.
Pizziz is awesome.
I'm gonna write that down.
P-Z-I-Z-Z. It's an iPhone app. Then what it does is it plays soothing music, and then the guy gives you neuro-linguistic programming while you're asleep. You are a wonderful person. You feel fine. When you wake up, you see you're falling asleep right now.
I am.
Pizziz is great. I love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, and make sure you buckle up. Buckle up outside of your blanket.
They tell you that so they can walk by and see you without waking.
No one listens.
Yeah. No.
And I watch these people, the flight attendants come wake them up because they can't see their seatbelts and they get all upset. I'm like, listen, dummy, why didn't you listen the first time? So always buckle up outside your outer garment.
I got another tip. Don't sit on the aisle because you'll get elbowed. You get food carts. I always try to get the window when I know I want to sleep.
That's my next tip, Leo. Get a window seat.
Yeah.
I actually like the one if you can get the exit row.
Yeah.
It's great because then you can bring your carry-on down from the overhead after you take off and use it as a leg rest.
Oh, good idea.
So that's a very good one. Also, bring your own food and water.
Yeah.
So in the airport, buy a bottle of water. You don't want to drink a lot because then you're gonna have to keep getting up and going to the bathroom.
But you do want to hydrate because planes dry. It's not a myth that they dry you out. They do dry you out.
Don't drink alcohol.
No,
because
that dries you out too.
Because that really dries you out.
Yeah.
I actually get up 5 or 6 times during a flight.
Well, you're supposed to avoid blood clots, right? To keep your
deep vein thrombosis. So it's always a good idea, but some people don't want to get up. They just want to sleep the whole time. So don't drink a lot of water if you don't. I think it's a mistake. Also, communicate. Tell the flight attendants when you board and your seatmate, say, listen, I just want to sleep. So if they come by with food or drinks, don't wake me up.
Right.
Make sure you do that. Or you get one of those masks that say, don't bother me.
Is there one? Really?
Yeah, there are some companies that make it.
Wow.
And my last thing is, you can bring a pillow or a blanket. That way, some of the airlines are now cutting back on, everything.
Well, it just doesn't matter. They were the worst anyway. They were the most uncomfortable pillows and blankets God ever created.
Plus, they're dirty as can be.
Oh, they don't wash those? Oh, no.
Not in coach.
No, I'm bringing my own pillow, my own blankie.
I went to Target last night and I bought a pillow for $4.
Now what about those neck pillows? I see people with those. They go around your neck, and then because the hard part is when you're sitting upright, what are you going to put the pillow on? Oh, you got one. What is that? What is that? That looks like Little Red Riding Hood.
And it's a neck pillow.
It's a hoodie and a neck pillow. Do you inflate it?
You have to blow it up. I don't even know who makes it.
But that's a good idea because then you can block out the peripheral stuff.
Yeah, you blow it up. You look like a freak and a fool, but you feel good.
Well, that helps keeping people from bothering you.
It keeps you warm, yeah. So there's all kinds of.
Who makes that? That's really you probably get there at the airport, right? I mean,
this one's hoodie pillow, but I have a bunch around here. Let me.
I bought this on Kickstarter. I wonder how this is going to work. They call this the ostrich pillow. So
I wrote about that. I've never seen it. I saw it online.
I bought it. For way too much money, I think. So you put your head in this thing. It's filled with those styrofoam pellets. It's got a little hole where your face goes. And then you could put your hands in the side holes. Should I bring this on the plane?
Please, and take a picture.
Wait a minute. I can't hear you. I got my head's in an ostrich pillow. Hold on.
Please wear it.
Should I bring this?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to bring my ostrich pillow.
I got arrested. But here's a nod stop someone sent me.
What's that nod stop? So that's so you don't drool on the person next to you?
This one you put on the back, you tie it into the back of the seat behind you. Keeps your head from going.
That doesn't look comfortable. That's just like it's tying you into the seat.
Here's another one, the Travel Halo.
You got a few of these. What is
Travel
that?
Halo.
What is that?
So this just has 2 little bumps so it keeps your head from rocking.
Do any of these actually work?
And this has a mask, by the way.
Oh, look at that. So you're
built in.
So, yeah, I mean,
I kind of like this.
Okay. I wish you could see this, folks.
I don't like is when people are wearing the neck pillows around the airport, walking around.
No, that's silly looking. I'll tell you what I don't like when you wake up and the guy next to you's head is on your shoulder and he's drooling in your front pocket. I don't like that.
I had a woman one time breathing on me the whole time, and she was first breath. So I actually took a Dentine or one of those Tic Tac, and I just dropped it in, and she woke up pretending I was sleeping.
Something's good here. Johnny Jet, he's the travel guru. JohnnyJet.com is his website. Follow him on Twitter @JohnnyJet, and he joins us every week at this time. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Safe travels. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Taking your calls, talking high tech. Having a good time doing it. I appreciate your giving me a ring here. Let's go to Josh in High Springs, Florida. He's our next caller. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Leo. Great to talk to you today.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I've been listening to you since I was 33, and I'm now 34. I'm now 34 years old.
Oh my God, you're making me feel ancient.
Yeah. I'm a newer listener. And,
wonderful.
But just a big fan of what you're doing,
Great
and
you.
a lot of your Twit podcast as well, and just really appreciate your insight and your advice, and so that's why I'm calling today.
And who's that in the background?
That's one of my little ones here, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm calling. I have a question about maybe how I can document some of the cute things that they're saying, and pictures.
Oh, you want to kind of have like I wish I had done this. There was a Google ad that I thought, it made me sad that I didn't have Gmail when my kids were born. They're 18 and 21 now. But I don't know if you remember this ad. It was really sweet. It was showing a father emailing pictures to his kids. So what he did is, and you could do this right now, is create a free Gmail account for Junior. I hear him in the back. I'm just going to mute you just for a little bit while he's expressing his feelings, his inner angst. But it was so cute. The father and a mother could do this too. So created the account, junior@gmail.com. And then every once in a while would send an email. Oh, I wish you'd known you when you were 6 months old. Look at this. And the picture, you could mail images, you could mail movies. And imagine this kid, I don't know when you'd show it to him, not 16. I would wait. Wait till he's probably 33, 34. Wait, certainly not when he's a teenager, but a little later on in life saying, hey, I created a Gmail account for you when you were born. And I started mailing stuff to you, and I thought you'd like to see it. And give him the account. And imagine what that would be like to see that. That would be so incredible. Now, that's just one way of doing it, and it presumes one thing, which is true of any of this, that Gmail is going to be around in 20 years. I think it will. But, who knows? I mean, 20 years ago, what did computers look like? What was going on when in 1993? We really didn't even have the internet 20 years ago. I mean, it existed, but very few of us used it. I think that's exactly about when I started using it for the first time. So who knows? There might be the extranet, the supernet, the super duper net, and will Google be still around, and will Google Mail still be around? I don't know. I think it will. I think it will. So I think this is a safe thing. The other reason it's safe to do this is Google, and this is part of their corporate culture, has a thing called Google Takeout. All the Google services have a simple feature where you can export everything that's in it. So if Google says, in the year 23, this isn't working out so good. We're gonna shut her up. We're gonna get out of business, move to Mars. You could at least export all that stuff and save it in a format that would be available to the kids. So that's one way to do it. Now, there are other solutions like this. There's quite a few timeline things. Facebook's got a timeline. You could create a timeline for your kid, start uploading to that. That's a little tricky because Facebook, the terms of service prohibit it. You have to create an account that's your own account. You have to be over 13 to do it. So you'd have to lie to Facebook. I don't have any ethical qualms about that, but just so you know. There are storybook websites, timeline websites, but these are even less likely to last than Facebook and Google. They're cool, Storify, things like that, But 5 years from now, I think most of them will be gone. So that doesn't seem like a great idea. The Google Mail is very simple. Now, the other thing, and of course, the stuff that really lasts is print. Not a bad idea to print picture books and things like that. Baby books. We just gave Henry, my 18-year-old, his baby book. We held it for all that time. He had no interest, none at all. It was embarrassing. He doesn't want to see that. But his kids might. I bet you his kids would, right? And it's historic. I don't know what else, digital stuff, we don't know what's going to happen 20, 50, 30, 100 years from now. There's no guarantees, so I don't know. But Google seems the most likely of all of them to stick around anyway. What do you think? Any suggestions? 8888 Ask Leo. What would you do to save something for your kid? I'm jealous because, we didn't even have digital photography when my kids were born. I do have, a few things I saved. I got one of my first digital cameras. I did a short video, 10-second video of Henry's first reading out loud to me. That's precious, so precious to me. Quality's bad, but I can see it and I can hear him, and that is incredibly precious. Email them to him. I think this is a great idea. Just to me, I think of all the ways to do it, that's the way I like best. Ben in Santa Ana, you're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you, Ben?
Oh, I'm doing good. Hey, I have a question about the Galaxy Tab 2. I've had it for, about 8 months, and it seems to be slowing down more and more as I'm using it.
Yeah.
I've gone in and manually turned off some of the apps that are running in the background
I think it's not that. This happened in the Nexus 7 after less than a year. My Nexus 7, the first one, got really slow. And the reports are that it has to do with the flash memory. Google used cheap flash memory. Samsung might have as well. That slowed down with time. It has to do with the way flash memory works on something called garbage collection. Google fixed this when they released 4.3. And so putting 4.3 on my Nexus 7 just cleared it up. It's amazing. It's because the memory is the reading and writing on the flash is slower. So the problem is you don't have 4.3 yet for the Note 2.
No, I do not.
I don't know when you're going to get it. You may never get it.
Never.
So a couple of things you can do. Have you rooted it yet?
I have not, and I'm just worried because of some of the stuff I've got on there. I'm sure I can back it up. I just haven't had the chance to yet.
There is a program called called Lag Fix, but it does require a rooted device. And what it is a front end to FS Trim. Trim is the software or the technology that fixes this slowdown in RAM and flash RAM. And Trim is built into Windows 8 and 7. It's built into OS 10 now. So you don't see it on SSDs in those operating systems, as long as the support is built into the SSD as well. Google didn't put it in Android until 4.3, and when it gets there, we'll fix it. Until then, there are programs like LagFix that will fix it. And what happened? I don't fully understand it. We've likened it to using defrag on a disk. It's not the same at all, but it's the same kind of effect, which is you run a program and it cleans it up. But it's not fragmentation. It's garbage collection that you need to do. So I think that's probably it. Have you tried restoring, recovering and restoring the thing?
No, and it's only been happening in the last month or so. And when I do kind of clean up the background software, it speeds it up enough, and I'm like, okay, this is good enough for now. But now it's getting to that point where I'm like, okay, this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah. So. You can also, I think, so the first one thing you could do is erase and recover with the stock ROM and all of that. The other thing you could do, which is a little more dramatic, but actually is probably the thing to do anyway, is root it. The good news is rooting is very easy. It's not really the same thing as jailbreaking on the iPhone. It just means I'm giving myself administrative permissions. For obvious reasons, Android devices, they're based on Linux, but they don't ship with a root login, administrative rights, because they're afraid of what users could do. When you're an administrator, you can do anything, including erase the whole thing. But if you're smart enough to become root, they'll let you do it. And in most phones, that's just not a big deal.
So, and that's something I could just Google pretty easily, right?
Yeah.
Look it up.
Root Galaxy Tab 2. It runs a program. You might have to hook it up to a computer to do that. But the reason I think this is the case, and I don't have any other evidence, but the reason I believe this is the case is because it happened to my old Nexus 7. A year old, and after about 8 months, it was unusable. It was noticeably slow, and it got fixed overnight when Google pushed out version 4.3 of Android, and everybody else said, wow, and everybody said this is because they finally put trim in the operating system. And it's something that makes a big difference in the overall performance of a solid-state drive. You know, we have to take a break for the news at the top of the hour. Maybe when I come back, we can I will do my best to explain trim. Oh, man, I might regret saying this. But it is something that's important with solid-state drives, and it can cause them to become noticeably slower. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. News is next. More to come right after this. Stay right here. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. More of your calls coming up on the Tech Guy Show. Hour number 3. On this Saturday. All right, I kind of regret this. I said I would explain, and I will. What is trim? This is an issue that it happens on solid-state drives only, and it has to do with the wear leveling that they're doing on these solid-state drives, and it really does impact the performance of the drive. That's why it's probably a good idea to kind of understand it. Sometimes I will use an analogy. I will liken it to disk fragmentation. And that's really, as many have written to me after saying things like that, not accurate. For one thing, solid-state drives, these flash drives we're seeing more and more in computers, certainly in your phone, your tablets, flash drives don't get fragmented. That's not an issue. So let me first explain how a flash drive works. By the way, the reason we're seeing them more and more is they're just fast. They can be really fast. The flash drive in the new MacBook Air, for instance, which is a high-quality drive using a SandForce controller, which is one of the best controllers, and more importantly, is on the PCI Express bus in that computer, not on the normal disk bus, is so fast. I've never seen anything faster. It's virtually instant for reads and writes. Faster for reading than it is for writing. But so fast that it's worth the extra, money. The cost per gigabyte on these drives is a little higher than spinning drives. But man, there's no moving parts, so they should be pretty reliable, maybe even more reliable than spinning drives. And they just waste no time because everything's random access, and that's just one reason things don't get fragmented. You know that a spinning disk, there's a recordable medium. It looks like recording tape, actually, brown in most cases. That's iron oxide deposited on the disc. There's a read head, which is very similar to if you remember cassette players, to the read head in a cassette player, just shrunk way down. Also, unlike a cassette player, the head on the hard drive doesn't touch the medium. It's going too fast. It would scrape it. It would scratch it. It flies just a hair, actually less than a hair, above the medium. It's close enough that it can read the electrical signals, but not actually touching. That head has to seek the data. So the operating system says, can you give me the data on sector 4072? The head, which can move both left and right and back and forth, will go, find the data, read it, and then move off. That's called seek time, the time it takes to get to the data for reading. Seek time can really slow down the overall performance of a drive. That's why we defragment drives, because we often want the data all in the same area so the head doesn't have to move around so much. That does improve the speed of spinning drives. There's also an issue of drive latency, and this is kind of a weird one. The drive is spinning fast. Modern drives usually 7,200 revolutions a minute, faster than your car engine in most cases. It's vzz. But there is still a certain amount of time it takes to go all the way around. When the head comes in, moves to the sector, reads it, takes just a jiffy to get that data to the computer. By that time, the next sector you want to read has spun by. So it has to wait for the sector to come around again. Even though we're operating 7,200 RPMs, 7,200 revolutions per minute, that takes a while. That's latency. So there is a little bit of latency in a hard drive. So, but if you combine those two factors, that's what solid-state drives eliminate entirely. The solid-state drive is just like reading memory. There's no read head. It's just a bunch of flash memory. And you access the contents of that memory by row and column, basically. You say, I want row 3, column 2. There's no head that has to move there, so you're eliminating seek time. That eliminates the need for defragmentation because it's just as fast to reach row 1, column 1 as it is to reach row column 255, column 255. There's no head movement. So this is why SSD is so fast. But solid-state disks have an issue, which is there's a limited number of times that memory cell can be written to. So all solid-state drives, in order to even out the wear, do something called wear leveling. Wear leveling means that the data is, spread out, that no cell gets written more than any other cell. And because there's no seek time, this isn't a problem. However, it also means that the way the drive works is a little different from a spinning drive. Just like on a spinning drive, when you delete data on a solid-state drive, you don't actually delete the data. You don't want to. You don't want to overwrite it because you don't want to burn out that cell. So you simply mark it in the catalog, not in use. Not in use. But the disk itself does not know where these sections are, okay? So trim is designed to tell the solid-state drive which part of the drive no longer contains valid data. The drive doesn't know it otherwise. I probably should not have said I'd explain this. It's complicated. So an operating system and a hard drive must both understand how trim works so as to release that area for use later. If it doesn't, then the drive gets in effect clogged and slows down. So modern operating systems, OS X, Windows, all do trim. Modern SSDs do trim, except not necessarily Android, not necessarily iOS 7, and in some cases, not necessarily your computer. Depends on the operating system you're using, the hardware you're using. You want trim, and most systems use it now, but it can slow down. It's really a problem actually on phones. We've seen this on Android because for a long time Android did not include trim. It is now in the latest versions of Android, 4.2.2 and later, I think. Let me see. Dragonfly FreeBSD Linux since 2.6, OS X since 10.6.8, Windows 7, Android, 4.3. I apologize. It wasn't until 4.3 that trim was built in. On those operating systems, when the drive is idle, trim garbage collection occurs and the drive is no longer slowed down. It's sped up. This is good. You can buy programs or download programs like LagFix on Android devices that will kind of fix this one time only, but you really want it in the operating system. That's why you really want 4.3 Jelly Bean on your Android phone. Most phones don't yet have it. Soon everything will. It's one of the reasons that the people who, like me, who had a Nexus 7 from last year were so happy when they updated the Android operating system to 4.3. Suddenly the laggy slowness that was caused effectively by fragmentation, by lack of trim on the SSD went away. Whoa, everything's fast again. Anyway, it makes a difference in the overall speed of the drive, a significant difference. Some scientists, I've actually talked to solid-state disk scientists working for the same company. They both worked for IBM, I think. Or no, it was Intel, which makes one of the best solid-state disks out there. And they disagreed over the need for trim. They didn't even, these two guys working in the same company on solid-state drives. One said, no, you need it. One said, it doesn't really matter that much. The truth is drives are so fast, you probably aren't going to notice much of a difference. But the good news is you do have it on modern operating systems. And I tell you, on Android, where the RAM isn't that fast, it does make a difference. Okay. Did I explain that? Too late, even if I didn't. I hope that was helpful. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I really feel like I probably should not have started into this whole explaining how trim works thing. Worst thing I ever did on TV was try to use cheese and a cheese slicer to explain how audio sampling works. And it was such... The only thing that could... two things that came out of it. So, it's TV. You're trying to be visual. And you're trying, explaining complicated subjects. So I'm explaining how, they take an analog recording and they turn it into bits by slicing it, right? So I wanted some cheese. And we had a production assistant at the time who was a little off. She was a little odd. And she was tasked with getting the cheese. So, I'm told, because I guess somebody was with her or saw this from afar, that she walked up to the cheese counter at the local grocery store and said, "I need some cheese you can write on with a Sharpie." And I think they were baffled by the whole thing, because I wanted to write on it. I wanted to write, put the waveform that we're slicing up. It was a bad idea. The other good thing that came out of it is my old friend and good friend and co-host Patrick Norton, who, as I'm doing this very lengthy explanation of how what cheese has to do with making audio recordings, Patrick was watching it in the back of the studio and actually fell asleep during my conversation. So I'm breaking into this flop sweats because this thing is not going well. It was live TV too. We didn't, there was no like, hey, let's not do this after all. We're doing it. And in the back of the room, I hear Patrick is fast asleep. There's nothing like live TV. Anyway, enough of that. This is live radio. So let me go and take another call. Moving on, this next caller is David in Long Island. Hi, David. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thanks for hanging on.
Hey, Leo. It's David Bix from the chat room.
Hi, David. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, good to call in. This is going to sound like a different question at first than it actually is, so I'm going to need you to bear with me for a moment or two.
Okay.
I have a home theater PC that I put together. I want to put in a bigger hard drive for the DVR. Now, because it's a home theater PC with a case that doesn't have a lot of room, I need to hook up one of the hard drives externally as opposed to just putting them all in and then pulling one out.
Right.
So I know I need to get some kind of SATA to USB adapter.
That's not a good idea. Is USB the only thing coming out of the computer?
Yeah. I mean, unless I...
And this is a hard drive you're going to be recording video to, right?
It's, for Windows Media Center.
Yeah. So recording video is challenging, as you might imagine, depending on the quality.
No. I mean, to copy... I'm sorry. I wasn't clear enough. I mean, to copy over the contents of
just for backup.
To the new drive. I want to go from a 2 terabyte drive to a 4 terabyte drive.
You're going to have an internal drive that's on the SATA bus, and that's plenty fast for recording.
Right. No. So my question is, when I'm copying, I want to copy to the new drive using some kind of USB SATA adapter. Whenever I look online for one of those, it's always an off-brand. It's probably, all the same manufacturer.
And you're doing this because you don't want to have an external drive in an enclosure?
Well, yeah.
Because normally what somebody would do, go to Costco and they'd buy a Western Digital that has a USB plug on it and plug it in.
Right. I just want to be able to copy from the old disc, put in the new one, and use it.
So you want a bare bones, disc, not one in an expensive.
Right. So really, the question is, with those USB SATA adapters, are there any name brand ones?
No. Well, no.
Something.
Because it's such a cheap device that there's really no, profit in it. So, the one I would use, which is as close to a name brand as you get, is from Newer Tech.
Okay.
And so I've used it before. They call it their universal drive adapter. It's only $40. The whole idea of this is that you can connect it to almost any drive. It's actually a handy little thing to have around. You can even connect it to a laptop drive. So it could be a 2.5-inch, a 3.5-inch, or a 5.25-inch bare bones hard drive. It's got the connectors for laptops. It has to have power as well as data, so it has that. You plug it in, and it's a USB device. Suddenly that hard drive is a USB device. You wouldn't want to run it day in, day out that way because the electronics are exposed. It'll get hot. I mean, it's just, But for an emergency situation, a lot of people use this. For instance, if this is a good thing in your toolkit, if you go over to people's houses and their computers died and you want to pull the hard drive and get the data off of it, you can use this. These are great.
So this is the closest thing to a name brand.
Yeah, I mean, you can get cheap, a lot of companies, China, probably all the same, but Chinese companies make these for less.
That's what I was about to say. Those are all...
They're all the same one, probably, yeah. But Newer Tech, at least, Newer is a good company. I've used a lot of their stuff. They have a reputation to maintain. They will back it up. And so, if it fails, you have somebody to send it to. It comes with a 1-year warranty. This is where, and it's $40. I mean, it's maybe a little bit more than the cheap Chinese.
I'm more worried about it frying the older hard drive.
Yeah, no, this won't hurt anything. I've used these for years.
Okay, that's what I was looking for then.
Good choice. Hey, thanks for calling. I appreciate it. Gabriel in Miami Beach. Oh, that's where Sarah is right now. I wish I were down there.
Hey, how's it going?
It's great. If you see a gaggle of young women in monokinis, tell them to get back to work. Sarah Lane, my co-host, is down there. Huh?
On Lincoln Road is always packed, and the one at Aventura Mall is always packed. I guess it's the tourists or something. Yeah. I don't know. It's always full.
That's good.
Always.
That's good. And you know what? That's not just Miami. That's everywhere. Apple stores are an amazing phenomenon. They actually are the most profitable stores per square foot in the world, beating Tiffany, the big jeweler.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're always crowded.
Wow. Well, I had a question. Have you had a chance to ride in the Google car yet?
No, the self-driving car? No, they don't take strangers for rides in those. I would love to. I
could arrange it probably.
What? You work for the Google?
No, I don't work for. I know people who know. It's one of those things where I've been emailing back and forth.
I know a man who knows a man. Please, if you can get me a ride in an autonomous vehicle, I would love to do it, Gabriel. Do I have to come to Miami Beach?
No, hey, man, you're welcome to come here whenever you want.
That's good. I know. I love it. I've seen him.
I got to tell you something. This is kind of interesting because there's some of the Lexuses on the road that have a little. If you go on any of the Instagrams or any of the photo services, publicly Google will tell you that there are about a dozen of them. They don't use the what do they call the
LiDAR on the roof?
The Priuses. The Priuses, they don't use them anymore. They use the Lexus RH450s.
Those are hybrids also. I thought they were Priuses. Okay, so now they're using a little bit fancier.
Yeah, they've switched. They had about 10 of those on the road, and then they switched over to Lexus, and they've got about 20. We have a spreadsheet we're keeping of all the license plates. I'm in a little Facebook group that's into this, and I'll post.
Oh, I love it. I love this.
There's about 250 of us or so, and it's right there. Gabe Miami. That's my little.
Gabe, we got to take a break. Would you hang on because I want to hear more about this? This is really cool. I would, and yes, if you can get me so these are the cars Google is doing. In fact, they've driven several 100,000 miles now without accident. They drive themselves. There's somebody in the driver's seat, probably has his hands over the steering wheel waiting to take over, but they've never made a mistake. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More to come right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Our gizwiz, Dick DeBartolo, coming up with a gadget of the day in just a bit. We were talking before the break with Gabriel, who's in Miami Beach, Florida.
It's beautiful.
So are you just, this isn't something you do for a living, you're just a fan of the autonomous vehicle?
Well, I'm visually impaired, and
so you would love this. This would be awesome.
Totally.
I didn't even think of that, but if you are blind or visually impaired, this opens the whole world up to you. I didn't even think of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's literally a time machine for me.
Yeah. So now, the real issue is how long, and unfortunately for you, the technology exists. You could get in one today, and it would work. I feel that they have really perfected it. As I mentioned on the break, Google's driven several 100,000 miles without an accident. In fact, the only accident the Google self-driving cars have had is when the human panicked and took over. What they have is LiDAR on the roof that does a very detailed image of everything around the car. It's got enough computing power to recognize vehicles, obstacles, It completely controls the car. And apparently does so successfully. And the thing that's a revolution is for years we thought the only way autonomous vehicles would work, self-driving cars would work, is if they modified the roadbed and put wires in it. And that would never happen. It's never going to happen. Well, they don't need that. It'll drive anywhere.
Right. There's no infrastructure changes are needed. Now, California legislation by 2015 has to be written. It has to be official by 2015. And the target date for these Google cars is somewhere around 2017 is officially when they're supposed to be.
You mean like I could buy one in 5 years is what you're saying?
Yeah, less probably. 2017 or so they'll be ready. And Tesla is looking actually for engineers. If you go to their employment site, they're looking for people who know about radar technology and.
This is amazing.
Their employment site.
Now, California has legalized, as many states have, driving of autonomous vehicles for research purposes. They're not saying you can get on, buy one and drive it down the road, but they are legal in California because of Google, and other states have passed this. But I've got to say, I don't see this happening in 5 years, and not again, as I said, not because of the technology, because of culture. It's going to take a while for humans to get used to the idea of sitting in a car and letting a computer drive it, especially at highway speeds. That's terrifying.
Well, from what the experts are saying, or the people who actually get in the car and try it out, they're saying that it takes you about 20 minutes for your brain to just get comfortable with the whole
20 minutes of going, oh.
Yeah.
You know what? When I taught my daughter to drive, it took many months of getting over. I was so hard for me not to grab the wheel. It was so hard for me not to reach over and jam on the brakes. And the only way I did it is saying, "Well, I'm just going to die," and that's the way it is. It's just, you get fatalistic, like, I'm going to die, but at least we'll die together. And shit, we didn't.
In the family.
We didn't. She didn't have an accident, but boy, that was terrifying. I can't imagine an autonomous vehicle being any less scary. It's going to be hard to get used to. And then, of course, it's not just us, but it's legislators that have to get used to it, law enforcement. Can you imagine the resistance there's going to be? I've had this conversation with the CEO of Ford several times. Alan Mullally and I have sat down, and he tells me, I said, come on, Alan, come on. Yeah, I know you got an autonomous vehicle research division. Come on. He says, no. He says, Leo, people want to drive. I said, I know, Alan, but come on. And finally, what he admitted to is, well, what we are doing is doing driver assist technologies. And I think this is how it's going to happen.
They're incrementally introducing the technology to get people comfortable with it. They don't want to just immediately introduce something to the marketplace because it won't play in Peoria. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, it won't play in anywhere. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. It's great for you, and I love it that you want this, and I completely understand why. I mean, if you don't have enough vision to drive, this is freedom for you. Now, here's what they're doing. I mean, right now you can buy cars with adaptive cruise control. They know what's ahead of them. Right. They slow down. If the car in front of them comes to a stop, even when cruise control is on, they will come to an appropriate stop at an appropriate stopping distance. Yeah. They will do a better job than 90% of teenagers. They also have this blind spot recognition where they can see cars in your blind spot. They will pre-tension the safety belts. They have lane assist, right? If you start to veer out the lane, it starts to vibrate the wheel. It pre-tensions the seat belt and may even change the speed. And, of course, the technology exists, although I don't know anybody who's implemented it to drive you back into your lane. They haven't done that yet because I think they realize people would just go nuts.
The closest thing on the market that's actually out there is the $130,000 Mercedes S-Class, the 2014 S-Class, which is supposed to be, they're calling it the first one on the market.
Well, maybe I should get one of those. It's autonomous?
It's got this technology called Distronic Plus. And it's the closest thing to a self-driving car, but they're not exactly there yet. You still have to have your hands on the wheel.
You will for a long time. That's what I say. What I'm pointing out is the technology's there. This is not it's not 5 years out because of the technology. It's more, I think, than 5 years out because of culture, because of people feeling safe. And I think we would be safer if this were in place. People with texting, distracted driving, people eating sandwiches and putting on their makeup, going 80 miles an hour down the freeway, we would be safer.
Yes.
You're lucky, Gabriel. You don't see this. This stuff is crazy. You're driving down the road. For a pedestrian, it's nuts. You see people on their phone steering with their pinky while they use their thumb to dip cream cheese. I mean, it's nuts. So I think that's what's going to push us. Go ahead.
Dave Barry once said that people should put the flag of the country they're from next to their license plate so we can figure out their traffic rules.
Only Dave Barry could get away with that. Hey, Gabriel, it's great. It's great to talk to you. Thank you for calling. I pray for you and all of my friends who don't have vision that this would be great. But I pray for me. I would love to see this. You know, my mom's 80 years old. She won't drive. She has poor night vision. Mm-hmm. This would be a boon for her, too. She has to get my sister to come get her and take her to the grocery store. There's all sorts of reasons why autonomous vehicles would be a big improvement, not the least of which the very high price from an environmental standpoint of private car ownership. You know, how many, each of us has a car. Some have several cars. These are a huge amount of resources. I'm not just talking gasoline, just the metals and to build these things, the rubber, the plastics. These things really are quite wasteful, and we don't use them most of the time. Most of the time, your car sits idle, is not used. With autonomous vehicles, this is one of the promises that experts I talk to in autonomous, self-driving cars bring up is it can change the way we think of car ownership. We're starting to see that with the car shares, right? The Zip car and things like that. We only get a car when you need it. Well, with an autonomous vehicle, you open up the Auto Car app on your phone. You say, I need a car at 4:30 this afternoon. It drives itself to you. It is out there waiting. You get in. It drives to where you want to go. You get out. It's like City Bike in New York City. I mean, this is a much better way of doing it. In fact, the guy who was telling me about this, he said, even better than that. Do you own an RV? I said, I've always thought of getting one. He said, that's a real expensive thing, not just the resources and the money, but you only use it a small amount of time. What if you called a car, the car came and got you, brought you up to the mountains, you got out of the car, the RV was waiting for you, got in the RV, it drove you around. When you were done, you get out of the RV, you get in your autonomous vehicle, it drives you home. You don't own any of it. You use it only for the time that you need it. This is interesting, huh? Save us a lot of money, save the environment a lot of stress. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, the Gizwiz, coming up. I am Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, look at that guy. He looks like the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. That giant floating head, though, is Dick DeBartolo, Mad Magazine's maddest writer. When are you going to be? You're coming up on the Turner Classic Movies, right?
Yeah, another couple of weeks. It's October 9th, a Wednesday.
What are you doing?
And I am doing an evening of co-hosting with Robert Osborne.
I love him. I love that channel.
He is so amazing, and he knows everything about every conceivable actor in every conceivable movie.
Did you get to pick your movies, or did they tell you?
I got to pick 3 of them. The fourth one I wanted was not available, but the gentleman there, and I didn't meet him personally, but my producer, Courtney O'Brien, said he is recommending that you take a look at Support Your Local Sheriff.
Oh, that's funny.
James. And I remember I saw it when it first came out, but I watched it again, and it's very funny.
Yeah.
And the whole thrust of the evening is Mad's maddest writer, who writes satire, is picking 4 satirical movies that he thinks are very funny.
Can you tell us what they are? Or
Oh, absolutely. It starts off, it's going to be 8 o'clock New York time, but out in your way, it's going to be 5 p.m. So the first one is Love and Death.
Woody Allen's classic parody of the Bergman films.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He's out to assassinate Napoleon, but he's a big chicken. And
Actually, it's not just Bergman films. It's historical dramas in general, isn't it?
Oh,
exactly. War and Peace plus.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Right. And the funny thing in that is when he's saying that French jails are filthy, but the food, and you see a waiter rolling in the dessert cart with all kinds of pastries.
Love and Death. Good choice.
Right. Murder by Death is the second one.
Ah.
Neil Simon.
That's a parody of Agatha Christie novels, right?
Of everybody.
Yeah.
It's Sam Spade. It's 8 different detectives, and it's
great.
Truman Capote and David Niven and Nancy Walker. Then the third film is Support Your Local Sheriff that we just mentioned. And then finally, probably one of the best satires ever, This Is Spinal Tap.
Oh, that is great. You like that? It seems like that. You wouldn't. That'd be. I don't know why. Because it's rock and roll.
Well, you know what? I like it because it's a whole other kind of satire.
It parodies
satire
the doc. It's a mockumentary. They call it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And very well done.
Oh,
very well.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah,
it just makes me
Christopher Guest, went on to do like 6 other very, very funny.
Yeah,
movies.
Waiting for Guffman and
Best in
Show. All of them.
Mighty Wind.
The Mighty Wind is my favorite. A mockumentary about the folk rock movement of the 60s.
Yes.
Oh, that is funny. In fact, now I got to watch all. So this will be fun. This will be on the Turner Classic Movies, TCM, on your
October
cable.
9th.
October 9th.
Starting 8 p.m. East Coast, 5 p.m. your time.
And Robert Osborne seems like a nice guy. Was that fun?
He is a sweetheart. I was so nervous.
He's kind of getting on. How old is he?
He's 80.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
No, this has been in the works for a long time, but they kept flying him to Atlanta to do these, and finally the Sean Cameron, the producer, said, Dick, this is going to happen because Robert doesn't want to go to Atlanta anymore. We don't have to fly people to Atlanta. We're bringing the set to New York City.
Oh, good. And you're in New York, so it makes it easy.
I'm in New York, so yeah, we taped it a while back, but it's
I can't wait.
When it is.
I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, well, you're coming. You cut your trip short by 3 weeks.
I did because I wanted to be able to watch it live.
Yeah, I know you guys were going for 6 weeks, and then you cut it to just 3.
I'm ashamed to admit, I didn't pay for Turner Classic Movies. I just realized I was looking for it to get ready for this, and I have to add it to my cable lineup.
Okay.
Shocking. So normally, when he's not plugging his appearances on major network television shows, Dick talks about gadgets on this small little network radio show. Do you have one for us this week?
Yeah, we talk about it a lot on GizFizz, but I haven't done it on radio, and I'm just gonna do 2 quick reviews of 2 as seen on TV gadgets.
Oh gosh, these are always horrible.
This week I'm gonna do 2 that are pretty horrible, and next week 2 that are so-so.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And so-so for these gadgets is really like
very good.
Right. Did that reporter say they're so-so? Let's get him to endorse us.
I should buy more of those. So what do you got?
Well, the most worthless thing I have bought in years is earvac. And I
saw the ad for this the other day on CNN.
They are running the ads everywhere. Earvac gently draws moisture and debris from the ears. Well, it's gentle. It's so gentle, it does zip. So I did both my ears. I opened a little chain, but nothing's in there. So then I go, all right, I'll take a shower because the warm water, if there's any wax, it'll be looser.
But it picks up dirt. It picks up water.
You know what? Mine, well, hers in the commercial is picking up some dirt. I found that it picks up debris. If you isolate a piece of debris, put it down in a clear space and hold the vacuum over it, it goes, oh, that's light enough. I'll pick that up.
I think earwax is somewhat more intransigent.
Yeah. I found it did absolutely nothing. It comes with 4 silicone tips, so the entire family can have their own
non-functioning vacuum.
And you have to be careful because on Amazon, it sells all over the place. The cheapest is $7.25.
Yeah.
Then there's another place where it's $16.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, and there's always buy one get one free. But
on the website, they're 2 for $10. Not that you'd want to.
Plus shipping and handling.
Oh.
Okay? So, and usually the get one free will say pay separate shipping.
Oh yeah,
and
get one, just pay additional
Yes.
P&H.
So the shipping and handling is, I think, like $7.95. So then you throw in almost $16.
Oh, it's $23.98 when you add the shipping and handling.
Yeah.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Get two of them, it's only $50. Crime and
So anyway, that's one to stay away from. And another one that many people wrote during the summer, please buy Ice Cream Magic. That's where
they want you to buy it so they don't have to.
So they don't have to. And they like it because I make videos of actually using it.
Yeah, actually, you can see that on YouTube. What's your YouTube channel?
Mad Maddest.
So it's youtube.com/Mad Maddest.
Mad Maddest, yeah. So Ice Cream Magic, the most disappointing thing about that is it doesn't make ice cream. It makes ice cream soup. Second of all, you must shake it continuously for 3 minutes after you get ice and whipping cream and sugar and flavoring. And when you open it, when I first opened it, I said, oh, this is going to be good. Then I realized when you put all the ice in there, you actually make 3 ounces of ice cream.
Okay, now that sounds like a lot. It's not.
3, no. So it takes you 10 to 12 minutes to make 3 ounces of ice cream. And in the commercial, you see like a big scoop of ice cream. That didn't come out of that stuff.
That's like 8 different, separate things.
That's exactly
And is
right.
it a lot of work shaking? Because
you know what? Shaking it is okay, but when in the commercial they just throw ice in there. When you get the actual device, it says, "Please, it's better if you crush the ice.
Yeah.
It's better if everything is kept in the refrigerator." I mean, kids will like it for 2 or 3 times, and then I think they're going to get bored.
It makes cold cream.
There you go. There you go.
Delish.
If you get ice cream on sale, it's probably cheaper than buying whipping cream and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, the ingredients are not cheap.
No. 2 out of 5 stars from on Amazon, so you know it's not a big crowd pleaser.
Is that it? Did we do 3?
We did, yeah. I'm just doing 2 don't buys, and then next
week we'll do more. Okay.
2 you could almost buy these if you pay attention to what I tell you to do.
If you have money to burn, well, okay, this is easier than burning it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Go to gizwiz.biz. You'll find details about both these products on Dick's website, but you'll also find the fabulous "What the Heck Is It" game, a chance to win an autographed copy of Mad Magazine by identifying, or better yet, not identifying a crazy gizmo or gadget. 12 for the right answer, 24 for the wrong answer. Dick autographs them, and you have till the end of October to play our game. I have a feeling that some of these may make it into the game, come to think of it, the earwax vac, or the ice cream maker. Hey, Dick, thanks so much. That's it for the Tech Guy Show for this weekend. I will see you next. I thank you so much for joining us. Of course, we do it each and every weekend right here at this channel. Have a great Geek Week. I'm Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. I'm Leo Laporte. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, the Tech Guy is just the tip of the iceberg. We do nearly 30 shows now on the Twit Netcast Network, and you'll find them all at twit.tv. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPad on iPad Today. You get your daily dose of tech news from Tech News Today, and our weekly roundtable show, This Week in Tech. It's all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next time with another great Tech Guy podcast. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.